All right, welcome everyone to another Blastfurnace for the month. Good to see some new faces. Always good to see old ones. So just to give you guys, those that are new to the Blastfurnace, basically what it is. So we basically hit three key areas from now till about 9 o'clock. So code. So we go through a bit of a session to start off with, the first hour, and we'll talk about some technology and why we might care about it. And generally every month we have someone present on that is quite knowledgeable on the topic. At 7:30 we'll break for half an hour for pizza and a bit of networking. So that's the meat section where you can just feel free to talk to anyone around, and we'll have some dinner and see what people in Newcastle know about tech and what you might be able to find out or get into. And then the last part is generally what we call the collaborate session. This is the part where we're really starting to get hands-on with the tech that was talked about in the first session. The code and collaborate sections may blend. We may be getting hands-on quicker than before the pizza break, or we may not, but that's basically the three sort of core things that are going to happen tonight. As always, just a nod for the support. So the STEM Industry Schools Partnership Program does give us sponsorship money for the event to help us with the food and drinks. Dashworks Makespace generously donate the space for us. And that always reminds me to tell you that the bathroom is just back behind the false wall there, and the fire exit is the entry. It's the only point in and out of the building. And if you have any issues with having your photo taken, come and let me know, because we do take photos for the social media side. So this month, from a code perspective, we're going to be taking a look at Auth0, and Klee from the Newcastle's Coder Group, who's also an Auth0 ambassador, is going to be taking us through that. Next month, I haven't talked to you about this, Klee, but don't know if we're going to try and do some virtual trivia or if we're... So Klee, for anyone that doesn't know, in the past we've basically got all the tech meetups to do a big trivia night together. Obviously in the past we haven't had COVID, but that would typically be the December meetup. So we'll have a chat and see what we can organise and see if there's anything to do there. But there'll be something on. I dare say it'll be mostly virtual. I'll talk to Holly. Maybe we will have a bit of a contingent in here that's hooked into the live feed and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens. For anyone, you see some of us wearing the shirts around. If you're interested in grabbing a shirt, $10, and basically the money from the shirts gets fed back into paying for things that help us run the event. And lastly, if you do want to take any pictures of your own or post on socials, they're the tags, and this is a good time to take a photo or a screenshot or whatever of the Wi-Fi. But yeah, so that's sort of a rundown. Basically now I'll hand over to Klee, and he can sort of kick us off and tell us why we care about Auth0, and yeah, about 7:30 or so we'll break logically, so depending where you're at. But yeah, that's the sort of plan.
Alrighty, cool. So authenticating a React single-page application with Auth0 is the title of this session. The talk sort of is just going to go through a little bit about what Auth0 is and maybe why we want it. First of all, I'm Klee Thomas. The name is spelled funny. If you pronounce it wrong, I don't care. Pronounce it Dave, I'm fine. So you can get me on Twitter at KleeUT, and I'll tweet a link out to some stuff later there. But by day, I'm a middle stack developer, which means I do the bit in the middle all right, but not so much at the end, and you'll see my front-end skills and how they come into play as we get to the stuff we're going to work on. So as Cameron mentioned, I'm an Auth0 ambassador, and an Auth0 ambassador is unpaid, so Auth0 doesn't pay me anything. I just talk about them, and then they say, thanks, that's great. You can use the term Auth0 ambassador now. So By night, I used to organize the Newcastle Coders group, and then COVID happened, and hopefully one day we'll get back to it. But until then, I'm really glad Cameron's actually kept some of the Newcastle scene going all the way through this stuff. And by day, I'm a lead developer at NIB Health Funds, where I work on our authentication platform. So I'll start with a simple question. What is authentication? It's pretty easy, probably. It's validating the identity of your user. So we want to know who our user is when they land on our website. And we've all done this. Everyone's authenticated. You all RSVP'd on Meetup, so you've all authenticated at least once, so I can almost guarantee. So it usually works like this for all of us. We enter our username, enter our password. It then gets sent off to a server. That server goes, okay, I'll look you up. Okay, I can see a username in the database. I'll do a string comparison to the password. It's the same. Great. Let's log in. It's party parrots all around, and we get to doing what we want. And it's really easy, right? Authentication is just something simple. But I wouldn't have a site like that if it actually was all that easy. When you start thinking about building your own authentication system, have you considered what password complexity requirements do you have? Is it okay for somebody to use the password dog or cat? Or does it have to be 8 characters with an uppercase letter and a lowercase letter and 3 Zs, and you've got to stand on your head while you enter it? Then once you've got the password, how did you get the password in the first place? You've got a self-registration system. You've got to find a way that someone can reset their password. So when someone doesn't know the password, you've got to find a way to trust them that they're allowed to reset it. And you've got to have a login page to boot. Then once you get to the server with that password, are you hashing it? And I don't mean encryption. Hashing is one-way modification of the data so that you can't ever get the password back out, but you can always check to see if a password passed in was the same one. And once you are hashing, how are you hashing it? Are you using MD5, SHA-256, bcrypt? If you are using bcrypt, what work factor are you using? And then in the end, you're going to have to ask the question, is your server secure? And if it's not, you're in good company. There's a whole bunch of websites out there that have been pwned. People have gotten in, taken this data. You've been in the hellos of apps like Adobe, LinkedIn, League of Legends. All these people have had people break in, take information out of their systems. In the Have I Been Pwned service that Troy Hunt runs, he's got 10 billion, I think that number is, accounts in there, and he's got 500 million unique passwords, or real-world passwords that people actually use. And that's across 487 websites. And in a podcast recently, he said he has a 4-digit number worth of websites that he hasn't uploaded yet, just sitting there because he's one man, he's only got so much time. And if he's got this data, somebody else does as well. People are putting this data out, using it to get into your website, to get into other people's websites. And in the end, all that's just plumbing. When was the last time you went to a website and said, I'm going to go here and give them some money just to use their login page? I just want to enjoy that password entry. It's so fun. It's fantastic. No. No one does that. You go to a place and enter your credentials, at best unwillingly. You don't want to log in. You just want them to know who you are. You want to get in and get out of the way, so then you can give that service the money that they need or the data that they need for all the services they're providing. So why would you spend time thinking about building your own authentication service, taking on all that sort of stuff that you would need before? Instead, you can use a SaaS service. So this is where Auth0 comes in. It's not the only one. Okta is another one that's quite popular, and there's a range of them around. These things do that authentication for you. They take care of that password management, the complexity requirements, keeping all the credentials safe in a secure system, dealing with the anti-automation requirements that say somebody can't just hit you with 1,000 passwords and hope that it's right. They can't just brute force into your system when you're using somebody else's authentication, and eventually you are paying for it. These services start out free, but aren't always free. So this is where I'm a fan of Auth0. I use it every day at work, and obviously I'm fan enough about it to come and talk to you about it. Auth0 is built on top of open standards, so it uses a thing called OpenID Connect, which is built on top of Auth0. But because it's open standards, it means you can get out. You're not locked in. You can take your user credentials out of there into your own system, and the same standards still apply. And because it's built on top of open standards, it's more secure because Okta is doing the same thing, Auth0 is doing the same thing, Microsoft's doing the same thing, Apple's doing the same thing. They're all contributing to make sure this thing's secure, all pen testing it, all keeping it up to date. So what Auth0 is going to take care of for you in what I'm interested in is the login pages, the registration pages, that account maintenance stuff, that plumbing code that you don't want to build, that is a pain to build and maintain. It's going to provide you with a way to do third-party login. If you do want to do login with Apple or login with Facebook or Twitter, it'll just facilitate all that stuff through. And it can also extend out to let you do two-factor authentication, because what we've learned over the last few years is just using one password is not enough. You really want to have an SMS gateway or something else checking to make sure your user is who they say they are and have something they say they should have. And importantly for me, there's no passwords in your applications. It means that you never have to see it. If you never have to see it, you never have to think about dealing with it. You don't have to think about how it's hashed, how it's stored, or whether or not you can compromise it and leak it out. I want that stuff as far away from me as possible because I just don't want to have to deal with it. If companies like LinkedIn are getting owned, they're going to have better devs than I am. I'm a dev in a small town out here doing my best, but Auth0 is a multinational company taking care of all this stuff for me. I'll trust that they've got the security up to date. I think our security team at NIB said it was the easiest onboarding thing they'd ever done, because they said, we need to know whether you're secure. And they said, okay, how many of these documents do you want? We'll just keep shoveling it on. And I said, so they're thoroughly tested. They know they're secure and they're willing to prove it. So as I said, we're not going to make it to 7:30. I only prepared a really short amount of stuff so that we can all get to building things and having a play. And this is my wonderful UI design skills at work. You can see that I'm not a front-end developer. This is roughly what we're going to have a crack at building. So there's a login, logout button, some information about the user that will come out of Auth0, an access token that you can use to access secured services. And we should be able to get all that up and running in an hour without having to spend days and weeks building these things out from the ground up. As a rough bit, I've broken the code section up into 4 parts, which is getting a user's identity. So this top bit, the login, logout, show who the user is, then getting a hold of that access token, which is the big long thing you saw down the bottom. Building a secure API, so an API that has an endpoint on it that you can't get to as just anyone. You've got to log in through Auth0 first and then make use of it. And then finally hooking the UI up to that API so that you can get in and hit these secure things. Just tweeted a link out about with a link to this. I've also put it in the Blastfurnace channel on the Nui Slack, and I don't know if the Blastfurnace Slack is still going. I can put it in there as well. But I've also got a link and a QR code, and we'll find a way to get you to the right page. But you can also Google GitHub, PlayUT, Blastfurnace, and you'll find it. There's the Start Here branch, which is where you should start. Should be the one that it opens up to. And then it will be sort of broken into 3 sections within the code base. The workshop, which is a bunch of markdown files, which should give us a bit of things to work through, explaining what's in the code, why it's in the code, and what we need to add to the code to get where we need to go, as well as how to set up Auth0. A web folder, which is where the website lives, which is a Create React app that we'll just be putting a little bit of code into. And then the API folder, which has a Express skeleton that we can use to build out that protected endpoint. All right, so that's pretty much all I'm going to yell at you about. If you go to that website or Twitter or Slack or hit that QR code, you should be able to get there. And then, let's have a play, get building, and if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to try and help you out.
So just pulling the repo on the start here branch.
Yep, just pull the repo on the start here branch, and we'll open up. If I go to GitHub, yeah, in the workshop notes, we can also knock that up in the workshop folder. See overview, which sort of runs through what each section is going to be setting up. But the first one to run through is getting the user's identity. And so in there, you can see the code we have there, we should be able to try out. So if we open a terminal, just one, and you can move to the web directory and install the dependencies. And npm start. Kickoff development server. We can log in. You can sign up. So this is Auth0 taking over. From here, we can see my password manager has pre-filled the fact that I've been here before. And for my email address in, Auth0 has gone out and found my gravatar for me. And put in my password, but I can register a new account. So if we say Blastfurnace Klee at mailinator.com and put in a password. See, it's already setting up the password complexity requirements for us without having to think about it. And allow access, and we can see it's gone out, found my an avatar for me. Gravatar doesn't know who this person is because they've never existed before, and it's just got some basic data. So it's picked a nickname for me. It's got my email address in there twice, and the Gravatar link, as well as a bit of other information. And we can log out of that, or we can't actually log out yet. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, and
yeah. So basically, you pull the repo, npm install, and something to run there.
Yeah, so npm start will run it, and that just gets something up and running using some credentials that are already in there. It's really just a very basic setup, and we'll go through and get everybody set up with their own Auth0 account so that they're not just using mine. This is just showing the basic what we're going to get to in the end. So as we go through the next section, we'll just look through the React app code to understand what's going on there.
So step one is
yeah. You can register for my mystery application that doesn't do anything at all. So so you see the sign up link there. No, you can use Mailinator. As long as it looks like an email address, it doesn't care. But are you familiar with Mailinator?
Oh no.
Mailinator is just like an open inbox. So when somebody wants to send you junk mail, you can put in junk@mailinator.com and it just goes there. And if you need to get a code, it's there. But I can go and look at junk@mailinator.com as well. Yeah, that's fine. So unzip it and open it in VS Code and go from there.
Which one to open? Just this one?
My nickname is
So where are we? So just open the. Where are we?
yeah.
So this
Okay,
is right.
so
So
here.
you downloaded that.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, download zip. Yep.
And this is the whole. Okay. So
Yeah. What have I done? I'm really worried that I've given you a bad link.
Okay. It's a different one. My bad.
Yeah.
Here we go. So there.
Yeah. So just open the web folder.
The web folder.
Or if you open the whole thing in VS Code, it's probably the easiest option.
Okay. So I'll just open. Do I open it as a workspace?
Oh, yep. Yeah. So
So
I think that's right. Okay. So if you open a terminal, so hit control this one. That opens a the terminal landing for you.
Control, yeah.
And then, so do CD, change into the web directory.
And which directory? The web?
Into web, yep. So CD web. And then do npm I. If you've got Node set up, space install, I for install. Yep. Yep, cool. That'll go and download things. So if you open the workshop directory while we wait, and open number 1. Yep. And if you click that button there, you get a nice output rather than markdown one.
Something like this? Sorry.
Yeah, so so you can close that one now if you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have
Yeah, so we'll install the dependencies, and then when that's done, hit npm start, and it'll kick up it pre-configured with credentials for my website, for my Auth0 tenant, and log in.
We just create an Auth0 account.
Yep, so we've just created an Auth0 account and get the login details here.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What do you get? So you got a picture.
Picture, you got your nickname, which...
you're not doing duplicates, by the way. It's going extension, so we can see another desktop.
Did you duplicate your spot?
Yeah. That is a duplicate. Give it a second. It's probably delay on the stream. Yep. Okay. So what have we got? We got picture coming from a database.
You just upload that in the sign up process?
No, so we didn't upload anything. All we did was put in the username and password, and we got an authentication email. As such.
You really want to display your emails all on screen?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know, that's how you guys get hacked. We're shooting again on short circuit Reddit.
And I've already validated, so the verification is already done. So,
All right, let's have a look at step 2.
Step 2. So we've done that. Basically, we then go into the app.tsx file and start checking out the script, I suppose. So it looks like it's broken into 4 different sections: the login display, the login, the status, the login log out buttons, the user data, and the Auth0 configuration. So we've got the user data at the top, and we can see that it's actually got the HTML here. So we've got our avatar.
It's just hooked into user.picture,
which
comes from somewhere.
I'm not entirely sure where it comes from at this stage.
I'll keep pushing on.
Keep pushing. Login display. Okay, this looks a bit more like our app.
Yeah.
Split screen it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Semi-responsive.
Okay, that should be enough. Should be able to correlate that. Okay, so we've got the header that correlates to here. We've got the error messages, which we currently have none since we've actually authenticated correctly. If we're logged in, we are currently authenticated as a result of this Boolean here, which results in the yes message.
Hey Eric, someone asked, is this React to JS?
Yep.
Yes.
This is React. So this demo is written in React. I'm wondering if we can share the GitHub code somehow with the GitHub link with the Reddit guys.
I tried to, I'll just put it in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, we can put it in there. We currently don't have a logout process. As we can see, if I click here, we get nothing. So it looks like we're going to have to add some functionality here a bit later on. Shared, cool.
Same
And
with that. Log in with redirect.
yeah. So we'll keep pushing on. What else we got here?
So this is where, so imagine we're going to update
Add some functionality here a bit later.
update this with ours.
Yeah, so we'll update with our own server and client ID, I assume. And that seems to be the end of the...
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. There's not really much to
Yeah, the entire thing in under 93 lines.
Pretty good.
It's not bad at all. So, what else have we got on this script here? Login status. Oh yeah, it's basically going through what we essentially did. Is account authenticated? Yeah.
They're demanding that you hack NASA.
Hack NASA. Baby steps. Baby steps. We can't even log out.
First auth. First log out without auth.
Yeah.
And then
Just got about 3 minutes of airtime before we have to restart streams. If you want to take an opportunity to show everything.
like a bit of a recap.
Yeah, recap and what this is, and show Blastfurnace.
Yeah. So okay. So Blastfurnace, so the Blastfurnace event. We're teaching people how to code and test out cool new technologies with some demo repos and some instructionals. Once a month, same spot here on Alan's Reddit account. I guess your Reddit account, right?
Yep.
And
YouTube link posted if you subscribe to
the stream, and we keep the streams and stuff. And then tonight's on Auth0 using React, and we're just going to demo how easy it is to create Auth for web, basically. So
what's this stack? What's the what we're working with right now?
the stack. Is that what you said?
Explain to the people in the comments what this is.
This app here, this app here is nothing more than really basic React app that's pulling data from the Auth0 account that we've created.
Why would you want to use this?
Basically, it's a one-stop shop for all your Auth. You know, it's secure, it's encrypted. You don't have to handle passwords. You don't have to deal with all the crap that goes along with password types, strengths, encryptions. It's all done for you, basically.
It's open source, so it's actually patched by the big players in the market. So
yeah,
the Apple, Googles, and the Microsofts of the world. So yeah, I think at the bottom of this script we've basically gone through this, but I think at the bottom we're actually going to create our own Auth0 service. So I suppose we'll go to auth0.com and see what we actually get. Alright, secure access for everyone, but not just anyone. Create a new tenant by opening the tenant menu.
Alright, so once we create our account, we create a tenant.
Alright, sign up.
Tenant domain. What if you can call it something unique?
I wonder if I can just put my username in. See if that works.
Yep. Personal.
Create account.
Alright, so we've created a tenant.
Yep.
Or do you have to do something beyond that?
Click on applications. Create application. Let's call it Blastfurnace.
Yep.
Select single page app. Cool. And create. Right.
Hit this one here, and we'll have a look at actually what the markdown looks like.
Oh, which one? This one?
Yeah. Yeah, just the pictures and stuff. All right. So now configure the client.
Might need to make it bigger.
More screen space.
Need multiple screens. So. Configure your client. Copy the.
Alright, you can answer this question. I don't want to hold Well, Eric, you gotta answer because you're the star of the show.
We haven't. I feel like it sounds like a fairly old processor. Dual core, I assume.
Sometimes tricore.
Tricore. Oh, that was ever a thing.
Just single.
There's still a thing.
Some people prefer the no core, they just prefer the flash core.
Yep. The Lance iteration.
All right.
You definitely need that processor for some salty gaming.
Yeah, very
But only if
salty.
you have to steal to do so.
Streaky.
What's salty gaming?
Salty gaming. It relates.
Have you tried this processor, Liam?
Have a look at Alwyn's processor.
Have you seen it? Have you tried that?
One of the Reddit users asked if we use it.
Oh, here, chat. Yeah, this is true.
We didn't fall for it, but I suspect it's a dual core.
Anyway, we'll copy the domain name in to our app.tsx.
Do you have a link for those nanometers?
Surely not below 7.
Yeah.
We're talking nanometers here, man.
Yeah. And then we need to copy over the client ID.
The question is, do you want it to be a fast processor?
No, you just want it to have really efficient cooling.
No chafing.
No chafing. No chafe processor.
Okay. So we copied domain and client ID over. And
Hey bro, I'm here to talk to you about underwear.
if we save that,
It doesn't chafe when it gets hot.
does our app have hot reload? Looks like it. Cool. So, in theory, does not work.
Callback URL mismatch. Provided redirect URI is not in the list of allowed callback URLs. So let's have a look, because in his instructions he did say we should have a Blastfurnace in the tenant name. So I wonder where that's configured. I'll ask Klee.
Copy the client ID and domain from Auth0 into app.tsx. So that's literally the only bit that we've had to copy.
Because up a bit earlier he basically said that to do it with dash Blastfurnace. I don't know that. I don't know, is it something in the app that shouldn't be the app?
Sure.
Otherwise, you can try to stop it.
Yeah, let's just restart it.
Rerun.
What's the worst that can happen? Login. Okay. Maybe there's a following step after. Oh, here we go. It is.
Yeah.
Click login. This time there's an error page. Yep. We've met that before.
Yep.
See the details about the error. Ooh. Did not click on that. Unauthorized client.
Yep.
Callback URL.
So what do we got to add that to our
List of.
Gonna have to head up, guys, but
No
it was
worries.
really nice meeting you.
No
Me
worries.
too.
And what's the name, Sam?
Cameron?
Cameron, sorry. Yeah, all right.
All
See
right.
you. I'll pop in probably next Thursday.
Perfect.
All right.
So, by the looks of it, our URL is unauthorized, so we're going to have to add that to Auth0 at some point, I'd say.
Yep. What's that in our settings? Is the instructions going to hit us? Give us a hint here. Okay, add the callback URL.
All right.
So we go into our console.
Console. I feel like it'd be under connections. Maybe not.
Let's go back to his. Scroll down to the application URL section. Auth console. Is there application URL on the side? Here somewhere or scroll. Alright, maybe it was in the quick start or the settings? Must be in the settings.
Application properties. Application URL. Here we go.
We'll add callbacks.
So just localhost.
I think might be, is it that one or that one?
Oh, yep.
Right.
That looks about right.
Yep.
Scroll down the bottom and save changes.
Sweet.
Cool.
Alright, so now we should.
Log in.
Hooray! Okay, we're on the using Auth0 now.
Cool. So I suppose make an account.
Unless you already have one.
Shouldn't do because this is our own Auth0
Oh, sorry, you're
account,
right.
I think.
You're right, yeah. Yeah, it's just for this tenant, not Klee's tenant.
A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that looks like it'll work. Sign up. Blastfurnace is requesting access to your tenant. Log in. Hey,
Sweet.
it works.
Alright, we're running on our own tenant.
Yeah, excellent. Good work.
Oh, I think that's a good pizza break.
Pizza break.
Logical. Okay. So the final step for this section is implement logout functionality to get the logout function from the user Auth0 hook by adding it to the list of destructing arguments. All right. Web source .ts login display. Call the logout function with one click. At the moment, this will send us to a bit of an odd place, a blank page with just OK on it. Auth0 wants us to tell it where to send the user after logging out. This is where we add it as part of the options to the logout. So are we going back to localhost or something, are we? Oh yeah, return to Windows. Okay.
Okay. So
This seems pretty straightforward.
yeah, so, there we go. Complete lockout. So I think that's just the function that we need to add.
Yep.
Save.
But then we're going to need to actually create the
Logout function.
It doesn't know about it.
Okay. Where are these constants?
What did it say with it? To the destructing arguments. D. Log out. All right, we've got that in. So we added our simple line to return to origin. Added the log out to the, what is it, the constructor arguments, whatever.
Now we should be able to log in and out.
So if we click log out, log in, or we log in first. Yep, and we go log out. Okay, so it did something. Log out, return to, and put the localhost in there. The return to query string parameters is not defined as a valid URL in allowed logout URLs.
There we go.
All right, where's that setting? There it is. There it is. So need it in the callback.
Surprising it's got two.
Yeah.
Super secure.
All right, let's try it again.
Is it possibly a security feature to stop people trying to redirect it to their own page, or?
And then log out. Yeah, because you think it would just be in the allowed callback URLs and that'd be it, right? So what is?
Yeah.
I'll ask Klee in a second.
Yeah.
So let's log in. Yep, we're in.
Log out.
Oh.
Oh.
All right. Sweet.
Cool.
Now, I think we've got to have a look at. So we're getting got out. Let's see if we can get our access token. Okay, so we have an Auth0 tenant set up with a React app that can allow other users to log into the site. This covers off the first key of why understanding who. Section will go through setting up an API in Auth0 and making use of it in the web client to get the JVT access token. Okay, this will be pretty cool. So first thing we've got to do is add the get access token silently. Oh, it's already there. Oh, sorry, that's the markdown file.
Here.
Yep. Okay. Let's add a new component to deal with displaying the access token for the user. Put this at the top level
top level. Where's the top level? Anyway, up here.
So what is it? Just a function? Yeah, not knowing too much about React. It's just a function. I kind of feel like it still should be in the... maybe you can just put it anywhere, yeah. Drop it in there and see what happens.
Uh-oh.
The first thing we're going to need in this component is a state variable. So what's this error? Function whose declared type is neither void nor any must return a value. Okay, so we're just going to put some code in here.
So that wants to account.
Yep. Yeah, well, I assume we'll get to the point where we add it returns something.
Okay. Yeah, access stack.
So the access token function is asynchronous. We'll need to wrap our component in a React use effect hook and trigger it when the is authenticated variable changes. Add the following access token fetching use effect block directly below the line that sets up the access token state.
Right. Just here.
Yep. Okay. Display the token. The last part of our component is to set up some output so that we can see the token we have retrieved. The code below sets up a basic display for the access token by rendering the access token into the text area. The text control makes it easy to copy the token if we want to make.
Cool.
Understanding the token and why we need an Auth0 API. So the token we have rendered out looks something like blah. This OPEAK value can be used to call Auth0 to get an identity token, but we can't use it to protect an API. What we want is a JWT token that we can read values out of and validate that it's correct. To get one of these, we need to tell Auth0 about an API we want to call. Okay. So most of the work that we need to do is to set up API needs to be conducted in the Auth0 console. Open up API menu on the left side, navigate, click plus create API, Blastfurnace API, identify Blastfurnace API.
Yeah, Logout projects. Like building small heat applications. Still doing lots of
Okay. Right.
Okay, we've created an API.
Now what do we do?
Oh, technology use cases.
Open settings.
So this is
Copy the identifier.
In the app.tsx file, find the app function and we'll configure the auth provider to make use of our API when logging into Auth0. This by providing an audience prop. So audience prop value needs the identifier we copied from the Auth0 console. So this is the audience one. Doesn't need the comma. Okay. Now when you click login again, you'll see some different behavior. First will be that you'll be asked to allow access. This will only happen when running on localhost, so don't worry, your users won't see it. Once you click accept, you'll notice the access token is now substantially different. It's much longer and has a well-defined shape. The token is divided into 3 sections separated by the dot character. Okay. What does our web app look like at the moment?
Just ask Cam what he thinks. Like, some people need help because there's access to
Because I like the same, like, whatever it is. Oh, well, it doesn't have to be that, like, just events.
Well, you have to talk to Cam.
I think the fact that it hasn't logged in automatically is a bit of a concern.
Don't worry. But like Cam calls. I don't know. Ask him. Yeah. So it starts off as
Okay.
So what some sort of lack of React has caused us to fall over here. So I feel like we put that crap at the top, but don't know if we're actually using it.
That's true. See how other functions are in it.
So how do they get? So it's never called access token display. It's go back down. Has it got to be added into that list of things? Right down to the main app. Login display. We're going to render it there, or?
Oh, okay.
this is how we color it. First we use
Let's have a look at the top here. Surely. Where do we add that? Get access token silently. There.
It's like it can't.
And it will take the... Because it's not seeing that anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just going to paste it down here somewhere, you reckon?
Maybe. Access token display.
We'll call that new component access display, and it will take the access token. I'm going to have to call this somehow.
Type the accurate bits.
Oh my god, you can actually make that and then sell it as well.
See, this uses user display here. So do we have to declare it here underneath user display?
How long would it take you to get to that point?
it's on and off.
Like the fact that it's not auto-completing makes me suspicious that I'm doing something wrong. Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like we're missing it.
Oh, cool. You could jump in.
Type.
Is authenticated public.
Yeah. Oh, you can make a Skype function.
Yeah,
Teach me.
just give me like
Type is missing the following properties from type.
all this like making stuff. This is
Oh, okay. Like a Oh man.
It's lack of React knowledge stopping us at this point. So yeah, we've got to somehow call this, make like just like user displays used within a login component.
Yeah.
I mean, we could cheat and look at the GitHub code, like just check. If you jump on GitHub, we can just have a look at the. Change the branch to complete, maybe. I don't know. Let's just see what he's got in there. Final state. Let's have a look. Okay, he's got user display state at the top. Access token display. Geez, she's fleshed out, but
Yeah, that's the dream.
it's fine. So he's got all that. Now, where is access token display? That's what we need to do.
I think you're right where it's supposed to go though.
I got that far. I just needed to put all the parameters in correctly.
Oh yeah.
Hooray! Okay, we got it. We've got an access token. Our lack of React knowledge is we hit a wall.
I realised you're the only one to that.
But I'm learning a lot about React at the same time. So
Can I ask a question? I can give you an answer, whether it's right, I can't tell you.
But the platform that I'm on.
Validating your access token.
ooh. Okay, have a look at what's inside the token, copy it out to the text box and paste it in the JWT debugger. You'll be able to see the header in the top right hand column. Notice the ALG property is RS256, which is the encryption we selected. We're creating API. In the payload section, you can see the properties based on the information we've set up in Auth0. Okay.
It's kind of like that.
Debugger. All right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Payload. All right. Well, it looks like it's working. Looks like the JWT is correct. Crafted by Auth0, this website. All right, sweet.
Cool.
So we got a JWT token. How far do we want to go? Secure an API. Let's have a quick look and see what's involved in it. 30. Start a project for the APIs. Project currently has minimal set of dependencies to get Express running in TypeScript development environment. That's pretty cool. Public that returns hello world to anyone that calls and starts a server listening to it. Oh, I'm kind of interested in this one because it basically create an API and then I assume
Authenticates the API.
we call it through Auth0 maybe.
Yeah.
Is that what this, should we just read this top bit? Key reason to authenticate users to allow them to access information that isn't available to general public. This section will go through setting up an Express.js API with a protected endpoint that can only be called by user authenticated against Auth0 tenant. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So, looks like we're going to jump out of this project and into the API folder, I'd guess. You can start the server by watching
API. Consume.
Yep.
And npm install.
You start the server in watching mode by running and opening a new terminal window, npm install, and starting the dev server, npm run start dev. Once the server is started, navigate to public to test the server. So we should see hello world returned, I imagine.
Yep.
Adding an authenticated endpoint. Because this is actually be a really cool way, seeing how this works would be a really easy way to just sort of create public APIs for people. That then distribute sets of access. Whoa. Boom. Okay, so API works. That's good. Let's see if we can authenticate it. To protect an endpoint, we're going to need to make sure that the API knows how to get an access token from a request and how to validate that that token is valid. Fortunately for us, Auth0 has provided some open source packages that can take care of different heavy lifting items. Okay.
So to kill it, it's not going to hot reload my API.
Sad, but anyway.
We called it would.
So these two packages give us some express middleware that will run before our protected endpoint. Yep, so these are just middleware, similar to, I guess, we've got some middleware on the Cypherlink side of things with the way, when we've got it set up with Firebase, you know how it runs that function that, on our Cypherlink's APIs, it runs that function that converts the user's UID to a special token and checks it and all that crap.
Yeah.
So I guess this is going to do the same thing.
If anything, that's probably a wrapper of this.
Yeah, that probably, yeah.
So I go to server.js, which run the wrong folder.
Server.ts, yeah.
Yes, and we need to import our packages. Cool.
And we need to configure the express JWT secret function to know how to retrieve the key that was used to sign the access token. Auth0 uses the JSON web key set or JWKS standard to provide these keys. Add the following code to the top of the server.ts.
Cool.
We're going to change it to our thingy, I guess. It's your name, I think. Below that, add this code that makes use of the callback, configures the middleware and be used to protect our private API endpoint. Let's have a look what this does. JWT check, secret, audience, Blastfurnace API, issuer. There you go. Okay.
Finally add private endpoint.
Finally add the private endpoint.
That looks familiar.
Yep. Yeah, it's just Express.js API call. So
We're app use, app get, public.
Put theirs, jam it down underneath that. Yep.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Okay, it's a private one. Right.
Save that.
Save that. Yeah. Now we're going to the testing phase. Now we can test the endpoint to ensure that it's not available just to anyone. Without a token, set the URL to private, click send. Oh, okay. So we're going to use Hopscotch. He wants to use Hopscotch to test this. You use Postman or anything, but... Postman. Just hit it. Just hit it, and it should 401.
Unauthorized tokens not found.
Yep.
As expected.
Okay. Now with the token, now let's add a token. We can use the UI we set up in section 2 to get the token by logging in. Copy the token.
So that means
we can use the UI. Oh, right. So we get our JWT, right? The JWT token from our, and we're going to add it as a bearer token.
Using Postman, not Hopscotch.
Yep. We've gone rogue.
Yeah.
We've diverted from the markdown file.
We're in Hopscotch, so it's online. So anyone can
Yeah.
schedule and go with it.
Yeah,
true.
The JWT token from our UI
Yeah.
is lost to the sands of time. Or is it still hanging out there in cache? Yes.
So back to Postman. Jam in there.
Yep.
Send away.
Oh.
What's the difference between rules and roles?
Secrets. I'm Batman.
We did it. Okay, that's pretty cool. So,
That was pretty straightforward.
yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Basically, authenticator and API. So now we could just deploy that as like a cloud function or anything, right?
Yeah.
And just have it API, and it's an API protected by Auth0.
I suppose your main use case would be is if you're going on your own server. Yeah, Node.js app or whatever. Right? So use Auth0 to authenticate it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep, pretty straightforward. All right, I think that's pretty much all we want to get through. We can use the access token. So this is where, so the last step, if we wanted to basically modify this React app to pull that access token in and actually use it in our calls.
Yeah.
I think that'll wrap us up for now, I think.
Yeah.
Blastfurnace is an interactive meetup that we run once a month, and we're now streaming online to get a bit more user base because of COVID, but we do have people in the room. Come along, we'll learn how to code. Tonight we learnt about Auth0 and how to set that up, and not only set up login, logout for your web app, but also how to protect your own API calls. So the whole stream will be on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to access the lessons through blastfurnace.com.au, and that's it.